The grand halls of the Terran Federation High Council were filled with whispers. Representatives from all across human space had gathered, their faces filled with concern and disbelief. A message had arrived from the Xeric Empire, one of the most powerful and warlike alien civilizations in the galaxy. The message was simple but shocking. Send a human to court my daughters. We require strength in our bloodline. The message was signed by High Matron Velzira, the ruler of the Xeric Empire. The Xeric were a reptilian species, towering over humans with their massive armored bodies. They were known for their brutal warfare, strict honor codes, and rigid traditions. Their empire had conquered countless worlds, forcing weaker species into servitude. But humanity had never bowed to them. For decades, there had been tension between the Federation and the Xeric. War had almost broken out multiple times, but both sides had held back. Now, out of nowhere, their ruler was demanding a human mate for her daughters. The council debated for hours. Some believed it was a trap, a way to test human weakness. Others thought it was a chance to build an alliance and prevent war. But one thing was clear: refusing the demand would offend the Xeric and could lead to war. Someone had to go. Then, a voice broke through the chaos. "I volunteer." The room fell silent. Standing near the edge of the hall was Commander Alex Carter, a decorated officer and a war hero. He was known for his sharp mind, quick thinking, and ability to turn impossible situations into victories. He had faced Xeric warriors in battle before, and won. The council members looked at each other in shock. Why would he volunteer? Admiral Hayes, one of the senior leaders, frowned. "Are you sure, Carter? This isn't just some diplomatic mission. They might expect you to fight to prove yourself. Maybe even—" He hesitated. "Marry one of them." Alex smirked. "I know, but I have a feeling they don't understand what they're asking for." The journey to Xeric Prime. A week later, Alex boarded a sleek diplomatic shuttle and set course for Xeric Prime, the homeworld of the mighty Xeric Empire. As the ship moved through hyperspace, he studied everything available about their culture. He learned that the High Matron's daughters were not ordinary princesses. They were warriors, diplomats, and strategists, each raised to rule. Whoever won their favor would gain influence in the empire. But Alex wasn't here just to impress a princess. He was playing a different game, one that no one, not even the Xeric, had expected. The moment his ship entered Xeric space, massive warships surrounded him. Red warning lights flashed across his console as deep, guttural voices came through the speakers. "Human vessel, you will lower shields and submit to inspection." Alex calmly leaned back and smiled. "Of course, but if you damage my ship, your High Matron might not be pleased." There was a long silence. Then, the warships pulled back, and a new voice spoke, one filled with authority. "Proceed, human. The High Matron awaits." The Grand Court of the Xeric. The royal palace of Xeric Prime was unlike anything Alex had ever seen. The halls were made of dark obsidian, lined with golden statues of past rulers. Hundreds of Xeric nobles gathered to watch the human arrive, their sharp eyes filled with curiosity and doubt. Then the doors at the end of the hall opened, and the High Matron Velzira entered. She was taller than any Xeric in the room, her golden armor polished to perfection. Her sharp green eyes studied Alex with interest. Behind her stood her three daughters. Saraven, the strongest warrior of her generation. Lurvash, a master of diplomacy and manipulation. Kazini, a brilliant scholar known for her intelligence. Velzira's voice echoed across the hall. "Human, you stand before the throne of the Xeric Empire. You have been chosen as a potential consort. We expected the Federation to send a noble, a diplomat, not a soldier. Why are you here?" Alex took a step forward, meeting her gaze without fear. "Because I know how to win." A murmur spread through the crowd. Velzira raised an eyebrow. "Win? This is not a battle, human. This is a test of strength, honor, and wit." Alex smirked. Exactly. And you're about to see why humans never lose. The High Matron let out a deep, rumbling chuckle. Interesting. Then let the trials begin. The Xeric royal court was silent, watching the human closely. The great hall, built from black stone and golden metals, was filled with high-ranking nobles, generals, and warriors. Their sharp eyes studied Commander Alex Carter, a single human standing in the middle of the grand chamber. Above him, sitting on a massive throne, was High Matron Velzura, ruler of the Xeric Empire. Her 3 daughters, Saraven, Lurvash, and Kazini, stood beside her. Each of them was tall, powerful, and highly respected among their people. Velzura spoke, her voice echoing through the hall. You have come, human, to prove yourself worthy of one of my daughters. The Xeric do not accept weakness. If you fail, you will leave in disgrace. Alex gave a small smirk. Then I guess I better not fail. The room filled with low growls and murmurs. The Xeric were warriors, proud and strong. They expected fear, submission, but this human showed neither. Velzura raised her hand, silencing the whispers. Each of my daughters will test you. Strength, intelligence, and strategy. If you pass, you may choose. If you fail, you are nothing. Alex nodded. Let's begin. Trial 1. The warrior's test. The first daughter, Saraven, stepped forward. She was the strongest of the 3, her muscles thick like steel cords, her claws sharp enough to cut through armor. She crossed her arms and looked down at Alex. A warrior must be strong. You are small. Weak. Her voice was cold and direct. Can you even fight? Alex grinned. I fought before. I'm still here, aren't I? The court chuckled, but Sarah did not. She pointed toward the training arena at the side of the great hall. Prove it. 2 Xeric warriors stepped forward, each taller than Alex by at least 2 feet. They were wearing traditional armor, holding thick metal staffs used for training. Alex stepped into the arena, rolling his shoulders. A holographic voice echoed in the chamber. Combat trial. Begin. The first warrior charged forward, swinging his staff down with brute force. Alex dodged at the last second, the weapon slamming into the ground, shaking the floor. Before the warrior could recover, Alex struck his elbow into the alien's ribs, making the giant stumble. The second warrior swung from behind. Alex ducked, grabbing the first warrior's arm and twisting it, sending the alien crashing into his own partner. Both Xeric tumbled to the ground. Silence. Then slow claps. Saraven's lips curled into a small smile. You are small, but not weak. Trial 1. Passed. Trial 2. The test of wits. The second daughter, Lurvash, stepped forward. Unlike her sister, she was a strategist, a diplomat who could control entire armies without ever lifting a blade. She was watching Alex with cold, calculating eyes. Strength alone does not rule. A leader must be cunning. Let's see if you can think, human. A large metal table rose from the ground. Holographic pieces appeared on the surface. A strategic war game, one used to train Xeric commanders. Lurvash gestured for Alex to sit. Defeat me, and you win. The court whispered. This game was played by generals, warriors who had trained for decades. No human could beat a Xeric at their own game. Alex only smiled and sat down. The game began. At first, Lurvash played normally, moving her pieces to trap and corner Alex's army. But Alex did not fight normally. Instead of moving traditionally, he sacrificed smaller units, baiting her into a false sense of victory. Then, suddenly, a trap. Alex had left a hidden path open, one that led directly to her capital. Lurvash's eyes narrowed as she realized it. Too late. The game ended. Alex had won. The court gasped. Lurvash stared at the board for a long moment before she gave a slow, approving nod. Unexpected. Impressive. Trial 2. Passed. Trial 3. The Scholar's Challenge. The last daughter, Kazini, stepped forward. She was the most mysterious of the three, silent, thoughtful, always watching. She did not speak right away. Instead, she raised a small metal device, pressing a button. A series of complex symbols and equations appeared in the air. "Can you solve this?" she asked simply. Alex frowned. He had never seen these symbols before. It wasn't any human language, nor was it part of the Federation's database. The noble smirked. Finally, the human would fail. But Alex did not panic. Instead, he started asking questions. What's the pattern? What's the relation between these two symbols? How do Zirek numbers work? Kazini's eyes narrowed. This was not how most Zirek solved problems. But it was working. Slowly, Alex pieced the puzzle together, recognizing patterns, logic, and connections. And then, after a long pause, he solved it. Kazini's lips curved into a slow, approving smile. Interesting. You learn fast. Trial 3. Passed. The unexpected choice. Alex turned to face Veldzira, the High Matron. He had passed all 3 trials, proving himself worthy. Now, it was time to choose a daughter. But Alex did something no one expected. He looked directly at Veldzira herself. "I choose you." Silence. Shock. The court exploded into whispers and roars. The daughters froze. Veldzira herself narrowed her eyes, staring at Alex. "Explain yourself, human." Alex smiled. "I'm not here to just marry a princess. I want more than that. I want the throne." The hall erupted into chaos. Veldzira smiled. The Zirek royal court was in chaos, the air filled with shocked gasps, angry growls, and hushed whispers. Never before had an outsider challenged the traditions of the mighty Zirek Empire. Commander Alex Carter stood firm, his expression calm, his blue eyes locked onto High Matron Veldzira, the ruler of the empire. Moments ago, instead of choosing one of her daughters as a potential consort, he had done the unthinkable. He had chosen her. Veldzira leaned forward on her massive throne, studying him carefully. The golden armor on her broad shoulders shimmered under the dim light of the grand hall. "You surprise me, human," she said slowly. Her voice was deep, filled with power. "Explain your reasoning." Alex crossed his arms. "You wanted a human who was strong enough to stand beside your daughters. I proved myself. But why should I settle for second place?" The crowd roared in anger. Zirek nobles bared their teeth, some even drawing their weapons in outrage. One of Veldzira's top generals, a towering warrior with scars covering his face, stepped forward, his voice a deep snarl. "This is an insult. A human dares to challenge the High Matron. He should be executed on the spot." Veldzira raised a single hand. Instant silence. Her piercing green eyes never left Alex's face. "You are bold, human, but boldness alone does not make a ruler." Alex smirked. "Neither does following the same old traditions forever." Veldzira's lips curled into something between a smile and a challenge. "Very well. You claim to be worthy. Then you shall face the matron's challenge." The matron's challenge. The court moved to a massive ceremonial chamber deep beneath the palace. The walls were carved with ancient Zirek symbols, and massive stone statues of former rulers stood around the arena. The floor was marked with a golden combat circle. Veldzira stood at the center, her golden armor gleaming under the firelit torches. She removed her heavy ceremonial cloak, revealing her powerful battle-scarred arms. Alex raised an eyebrow. "So I have to fight you." Veldzira chuckled. "No, human. That would be unfair. I am a matron, and you are but a warrior. Instead, you must prove yourself through 3 final trials, each harder than before. Pass them, and I will consider your request. Fail, and you leave as a fool." Alex rolled his shoulders. "All right, let's do this." The court held their breath as the first trial began. Trial 1. The Test of Strength. The ground shook as a massive gate opened. From the shadows stepped a Zirek gladiator, twice Alex's size, his body covered in thick black armor. Velzura's voice echoed, "Defeat him, and you move forward." The gladiator charged, swinging a massive metal hammer down toward Alex. The force of the attack cracked the ground, but Alex rolled aside just in time. The crowd laughed, expecting the human to be crushed. But Alex was fast. He dodged, weaved, and used his speed against the heavy warrior. When the Zirek swung again, Alex sidestepped and kicked his knee. Hard. The warrior stumbled, and Alex didn't waste time. He grabbed a fallen combat spear, spun it in his hands, and struck the warrior behind the head. The gladiator collapsed. Silence filled the arena. Then, cheers erupted. Even Zirek warriors, impressed by his skill, began pounding their chests in approval. Velzura nodded. "You fight well, but you are not done yet." Trial 2. The Test of Wisdom. A group of Zirek scholars stepped forward, bringing a large stone tablet covered in complex symbols. Velzura gestured toward it. "This is an ancient riddle, created by our greatest minds. Solve it, or you fail." Alex took a deep breath. He wasn't a scientist, but he knew how to think. He studied the symbols, recognizing patterns. The Zirek language had roots in logic and warfare. Everything followed a strategy. After a long pause, Alex found the hidden message in the riddle and spoke the answer aloud. The scholars stared in shock, then they bowed. Velzura's smile widened. "Impressive. One last trial remains." Trial 3. The Test of Leadership. For the final test, Alex was led to a tactical war room. A simulated battle was displayed, a battle between the Zirek and an unknown enemy. Velzura's voice was serious. "A ruler must lead. You have 5 minutes to turn the battle in our favor. Succeed, and you have earned my respect." Alex sat down, scanning the battlefield. The Zirek forces were losing, their front line broken, their supply lines weak. He immediately changed strategy. Instead of attacking head-on like the Zirek normally did, he used deception, pulling back forces to lure the enemy into a trap. Then he struck their weakest points, cutting off their supply lines. The simulation flashed victory. The Zirek generals watched in stunned silence. Velzura stood from her throne. "You have passed." The court erupted in cheers and disbelief. Alex stepped forward, his eyes locked onto hers. "So, what's your decision?" Velzura smirked. "Perhaps the human is not so weak after all. We shall see what comes next." The Zirek Empire would never be the same again. The Zirek royal court was in a state of disbelief. Alex Carter, a human, had done the impossible. He had passed the matron's challenge. He had proven his strength, his intelligence, and his leadership. Now, all eyes were on High Matron Velzura. She stood tall on the golden throne, her piercing green eyes fixed on Alex. Her daughters, Saraven, Lurvash, and Kazini, watched with curiosity and surprise. The court was silent, waiting for her response. Velzura finally spoke, her voice calm but firm. "You have proven yourself, human, but passing a test is not the same as ruling an empire." Alex didn't flinch. He met her gaze with calm confidence. "Then what will convince you?" A low murmur ran through the court. The Zirek nobles and generals whispered among themselves, curious to see what their matron would decide. Velzura tilted her head slightly. "You claim you are worthy of standing by my side. But an empire is not ruled by strength alone. A ruler must understand their people, their struggles, their victories. You have shown skill in combat and strategy, but can you earn the respect of my people?" Alex's smirk returned. "I guess there's only one way to find out." Velzura let out a low chuckle. "Then it is decided. You will spend the next cycle among the people of the Zirek Empire. Learn our ways, earn our trust. Only then will I make my final decision." The court erupted in debate. Some were angry, others intrigued. Alex simply nodded. Challenge accepted. The first task: among the warriors. The next day, Alex was sent to the Zurich military training grounds. He would spend time with the Zurich warriors, learning their ways, fighting alongside them. The barracks were massive, filled with hundreds of soldiers training in combat, strategy, and discipline. The Zurich were not just warriors. They were living weapons. Alex was assigned to Commander Raktor, a hardened veteran with countless battle scars. The moment Alex arrived, Raktor crossed his arms and snorted in amusement. The matron must have a sense of humor, sending a human here. Alex grinned. Or maybe she just wants to see if your warriors are as tough as they say. The Zurich warriors laughed, but Raktor's eyes narrowed. "You talk big, human. Let's see if you can back it up." The first test began, hand-to-hand combat training. Alex was thrown into a ring with 3 Zurich warriors, each one larger and stronger than him. The crowd gathered, eager to see the human fail. The battle began. The first warrior charged, swinging a massive fist. Alex dodged, moving fast. He sidestepped the second attack and landed a sharp punch to the warrior's ribs. The Zurich stumbled, surprised, but the second and third warriors attacked together. Alex ducked, rolled, and countered, using their own strength against them. The fight was brutal. Alex took hits, hard ones, but he never stopped moving, never stopped thinking. Finally, after a grueling battle, Alex stood over his opponents, bruised but victorious. The watching warriors were silent for a moment. Then they roared in approval. Raktor gave a small, approving nod. "Not bad, human. Maybe you're worth training after all." Alex smirked. Was there ever a doubt? The first challenge was complete. The second task: earning the trust of the people. The next trial was different. Velzura didn't just want Alex to impress warriors. She wanted him to understand the struggles of the common people. He was sent to a Zurich mining colony on a distant moon. Life there was hard, and the workers had little respect for outsiders. When Alex arrived, the miners barely acknowledged him. They continued their work, ignoring him as if he wasn't there. But instead of demanding respect, Alex did something unexpected. He picked up a mining tool and started working beside them. For days, he worked in the harsh conditions, carrying heavy loads, helping fix machinery, and sharing meals with the workers. Slowly, the miners began to respect him. They saw that he wasn't just a warrior. He was someone willing to stand shoulder to shoulder with them. One day, a cave-in occurred, trapping several workers. Without hesitation, Alex rushed into the rubble, using his strength and intelligence to help dig them out. When the last worker was freed, the miners cheered. The leader of the mining colony, an old Zurich named Veclon, placed a hand on Alex's shoulder. "You are different, human. You do not just demand respect, you earn it. Perhaps you are not so unworthy after all." The second challenge was complete. The matron's response. Back at the palace, Velzura watched everything. She had been observing Alex's actions from afar, listening to the reports from her people. Her daughters stood beside her, each with their own thoughts. Saraven smirked. "He fights like a warrior." Lurvash nodded. "He thinks like a strategist." Kazini tilted her head. "But more importantly, he listens." Velzura remained silent for a long moment. Then, a slow smile formed on her lips. "Perhaps this human is more than I expected." Alex had won the respect of the warriors and the people, but the greatest challenge still awaited him, convincing Velzura to accept him as her equal. And the Zurich Empire was watching closely. The halls of the Zurich royal palace were filled with whispers. News of the human warrior who had passed the matron's tests had spread throughout the empire. Some called him foolish, others called him brave, but no one could ignore him anymore. Alex Carter had done the impossible. He had earned the respect of the Zurich warriors, and the trust of the common people. But the greatest test was still ahead. Would High Matron Velzura truly consider him worthy to stand at her side? A meeting with the matron. Alex stood in the grand throne room once again. The golden walls reflected the dim firelight, and the Zirak nobles watched him with sharp eyes. Velzura sat on her massive golden throne, her expression unreadable. Her daughters, Saraven, Lurvash, and Kazini, stood beside her, each watching Alex with curiosity. Finally, Velzura spoke. "You have walked among my people. You have fought beside my warriors. You have labored with the workers, and yet you still stand before me, demanding a place at my side." Alex met her gaze without hesitation. "I don't demand anything. I've only proved that I can be more than just an outsider." Velzura leaned forward slightly. "Perhaps, but there is one final trial." A murmur ran through the court. Ruling an empire is not just about fighting battles or earning respect. A true leader must know when to fight and when to show mercy. Alex frowned. "What do you mean?" Velzura gestured, and 2 guards stepped forward, dragging a beaten and bruised Zirak prisoner into the room. The crowd whispered in shock. It was General Zorkas, a once powerful military leader who had betrayed the empire by selling secrets to an enemy race. He had been captured weeks ago and sentenced to public execution. Velzura turned her gaze back to Alex. "This traitor has dishonored our empire. By our laws, he must be executed. But you, human, will decide his fate." Alex blinked. "What? Why me?" "Because if you wish to stand beside me, you must prove you understand the weight of leadership. A ruler must not only fight battles, but also make decisions that shape the future." The room fell silent. Alex looked at Zorkas, whose face was filled with pain and regret. He had betrayed his people, but why? Alex took a deep breath. He couldn't rush this decision. A choice of justice or mercy. Alex stepped forward and addressed the court. "Before I decide, I want to know why he did it." A noble scoffed. "Does it matter? He is a traitor." Alex narrowed his eyes. "It always matters. Justice isn't just about punishment. It's about understanding the truth." Velzura raised an eyebrow, but nodded. "Very well. Speak, Zorkas." The room fell into silence as the beaten warrior lifted his head. His voice was hoarse but strong. I was desperate. My family was taken hostage by the enemy. They threatened to kill them if I did not give them the secrets they wanted. I tried to find another way, but there was none. So I made the choice to betray my people, to save my blood." The court erupted in anger. "Lies. He is weak. A true warrior would have chosen death." Alex remained quiet, studying the fallen general. He could see the guilt in his eyes. This wasn't a man who had betrayed out of greed or ambition. He had done it out of love and desperation. Finally, Alex turned to Velzura. "You said a leader must know when to fight and when to show mercy." He exhaled. "Killing him won't fix anything. It won't bring back the secrets he gave away, and it won't change what happened." The court froze. Was he suggesting mercy? Alex continued, "But he must still answer for his actions. So instead of execution, I suggest exile. Strip him of his title, his rank, and banish him to a distant colony. Let him live with the burden of his choices, and let him prove, through action, not just words, that he regrets what he has done." Velzura studied him carefully. Then, for the first time, she smiled. "You surprise me again, human." She turned to the court. "The human speaks truth. Justice is not always death. The traitor shall be exiled, but he shall work in the harshest colony, where he will rebuild what he has helped destroy. This is my decree." The court was stunned, but none dared challenge her decision. Alex had done it. He had proven that he wasn't just a warrior. He was a leader. A new path. As the court dispersed, Velzura approached Alex, her piercing gaze softer than before. You have impressed me, human. You have passed my trials. And more importantly, you have shown that you understand what it means to lead. Alex smirked. Does that mean I finally get an answer? Vel-Zura chuckled. You are bold. Very well, human. I will accept your proposal. But understand this. Standing beside me means you will not just be my equal, but my partner in ruling this empire. The court gasped. Was Vel-Zura truly accepting the human consort? Her daughters watched with curiosity. Saraven grinned. He is interesting. Perhaps this is not a bad idea after all. Lurvash nodded. He will bring change. Maybe that is what we need. Kazini simply smiled. This will be fun. Alex crossed his arms. Guess that means I have a lot of work ahead of me. Vel-Zura smirked. Indeed, but I have no doubt you are ready. The Zirek Empire would never be the same again, and neither would Alex Carter. The news of High Matron Vel-Zura's decision spread across the Zirek Empire like wildfire. A human, Alex Carter, had been accepted as her partner and equal. The reaction was explosive. Some Zirek nobles and generals were outraged. A human, standing beside their matron. It was unthinkable. Others, however, saw the wisdom in Vel-Zura's choice. Alex had proven himself in combat, earned the respect of the people, and demonstrated true leadership. But there was one thing everyone agreed on. Change was coming. And not everyone wanted it. A hidden enemy. Alex sat in a dimly lit chamber inside the royal palace, studying a holographic map of the empire. Vel-Zura stood beside him, her sharp eyes scanning the map. Her daughters, Saraven, Lurvash, and Kazini, watched silently. The empire is vast, Vel-Zura said, but it is also fragile. There are those who do not want a human to share power. Alex nodded. I expected resistance. Some of your nobles don't trust me. Some of your generals want me dead. Lurvash smirked. You learn quickly, human. Vel-Zura turned to Alex. There are whispers of rebellion. A powerful noble, Lord Varzol, is rallying forces in the outer colonies. He believes our traditions are being broken. He seeks to overthrow me. And you. Alex exhaled slowly. He had fought battles before, but this was something else. Do we know how many are with him? Kazini spoke softly. Not yet, but he is dangerous. He controls many warships, and his spies are everywhere. Alex clenched his jaw. He knew one thing. This wasn't just about him anymore. If Varzol won, he wouldn't just remove Alex. He would take the throne by force. And that meant war. An unexpected attack. That night, Alex couldn't sleep. He stood on the balcony of the palace, looking out at the glowing city below. Suddenly, his instincts screamed danger. He turned just as a shadowy figure leaped from the darkness. A Zirek assassin, armed with two curved blades, lunged at him. Alex dodged just in time, the blade missing his throat by inches. He rolled backward, grabbing a nearby decorative spear from the wall. The assassin attacked again, moving unnaturally fast. Alex barely blocked the strike, sparks flying as metal clashed. The assassin snarled, eyes glowing with hatred. You are not worthy, human. Alex didn't waste time responding. He counterattacked, striking with precise movements. He wasn't as strong as the Zirek, but he was faster and smarter. The assassin made a fatal mistake. He overextended his strike. Alex spun around him and drove the blunt end of the spear into his ribs. The assassin stumbled, and in that moment of weakness, Alex delivered the final blow, knocking him unconscious. Guards stormed in a second later, weapons drawn. Vel-Zura arrived moments after, her eyes dark with anger. An assassin in my own palace, she growled. This was no random attack. This was Lord Varzol's doing. Alex nodded, catching his breath. Then it's time to stop waiting. We need to take the fight to him. Vel-Zura's lips curled into a dangerous smile. I was hoping you'd say that. The battle for the throne begins. The next day, the Zirak War Council gathered. Velzura stood at the head of the table, her voice sharp. Lord Varzul seeks to tear this empire apart. We will not let him. Alex studied the battle reports. Varzul had already taken control of 3 outer colonies. His fleet was growing. Saraven clenched her fists. We should strike now, before he grows stronger. Lurvash nodded. Agreed. But we must be careful. If we move too quickly, we could fall into a trap. Kazini turned to Alex. What do you suggest, human? All eyes were on him. Alex tapped the holographic map. Varzul expects us to attack him directly. But that's exactly why we shouldn't. Velzura raised an eyebrow. Explain. Alex pointed to a supply route running between Varzul's forces. He needs food, weapons, and fuel to keep his fleet running. If we cut off his supply lines, we starve him out. He'll be forced to act recklessly, and that's when we strike. The room fell silent. Then, Velzura let out a low, approving chuckle. You truly think like a leader. Saraven grinned. I like this plan. Lurvash smirked. Simple, yet effective. Kazini nodded. Let's see how Varzul reacts when we turn his own strategy against him. Velzura turned to Alex, her eyes filled with new respect. Very well, human. The battle for the Empire begins, and we shall fight it together. The war begins. As the war fleet prepared for battle, Alex stood beside Velzura, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. This wasn't just about proving himself anymore. This was about defending everything he had fought for. The Zirak Empire was on the brink of war, and Alex Carter, the human who was never supposed to be here, was about to help decide its fate. The Zirak war fleet moved through space like a storm. The massive warships, sleek and deadly, were heading towards Lord Varzul's forces, prepared for battle. In the command chamber of the royal flagship, Alex stood beside High Matron Velzura and her daughters, Saraven, Lurvash, and Kazini. Alex's plan was in motion. They had spent the last few weeks cutting off Varzul's supply lines, forcing his fleet into a weakened position. Now, they were ready for the final strike. This is it, Alex said, looking at the holographic display of the battlefield. If we win today, the Empire will be secure. If we lose, Velzura finished for him. Then everything we have built will be destroyed. There was no turning back. The battle begins. The first enemy ships appeared on the scanners. Incoming fleet detected. 30 warships. A Zirak officer reported. Alex narrowed his eyes. Where is Varzul's flagship? Kazini scanned the data. Not here yet. He's holding back, waiting to see how we fight. Velzura smirked. Then let's give him a surprise. She turned to the fleet commanders. Begin Phase 1. The Zirak warships moved into formation, launching waves of precision strikes at the enemy's weakened supply ships. Explosions erupted in space. Varzul's forces, already low on resources, scrambled to defend themselves. Alex watched carefully. They're panicking. They weren't ready for this. Saraven grinned. Time to push forward. But just as they were about to advance, alarms blared. Emergency report. A second fleet is emerging from hyperspace. Alex's eyes widened as he saw the new enemy ships arriving from behind them. It was a trap. And at the center of it was Varzul's massive flagship. The enemy strikes back. Varzul's deep voice echoed over the comms. Foolish matron, you thought you could outmaneuver me. I expected this strategy. And now you are surrounded. Alex clenched his fists. We underestimated him. Lurvash shook her head. No, he was just more prepared than we thought. Velzura's expression remained calm. Then we must adapt. She turned to Alex. What would your people do in this situation? Alex exhaled, thinking quickly. They had been surrounded, but Varzul had made a mistake. He had moved his flagship into a vulnerable position. "We don't fight his whole fleet," Alex said. "We take out his flagship. If we kill him, the rest of his forces will collapse." Kazini's eyes gleamed. A direct strike against their leader. Risky, but effective. Velzura smiled. "Then let's end this." The final confrontation. The royal flagship broke formation, heading straight toward Varzol's command ship. Enemy warships closed in, but the elite Xerac warriors fought back with expert precision. Explosions and laser fire filled space as the two fleets clashed. Alex and Velzura led a strike team to board Varzol's ship. Inside, they fought through his loyal guards, their blades and weapons clashing in the narrow corridors. Varzol was waiting in the central command room, his armor gleaming under the red emergency lights. "You think a human can stand against me?" He sneered at Alex. Alex smirked. "I don't think. I know." The battle was fierce. Varzol was stronger, but Alex was faster and smarter. With one final strike, Alex dodged Varzol's attack and plunged his energy blade into the warlord's chest. Varzol staggered back, his eyes filled with shock. "Impossible," he whispered before collapsing. The enemy fleet, seeing their leader fall, surrendered. The war was over. A new era. Back in the royal palace, the victory was celebrated across the empire. Velzura stood before the gathered nobles and warriors, Alex at her side. "The traitor is dead. The empire is safe. And let it be known, this human, Alex Carter, is not just my partner. He is a warrior, a leader, and a part of our future."